Hello everyone, welcome to this YouTube channel once again. Today we are going to see Maharashtra State Board Class 8th Subject Science Chapter number 13 Chemical Change and Chemical Bond. In the first part of this particular chapter, in the first video for this chapter, what we have already covered up about the chemical changes in everyday life. In that already we have discussed about the respiration, photosynthesis, some chemical changes, some chemical equations. Already we had talked about in a previous video. In this particular video we are going to concentrate on the chemical bond. When we talk about the chemical compounds, in a chemical compounds we have two or more than two atoms which are linked together with a one force of connection between them. Now this force of attraction between them or the bonding between them, what we have is called as the chemical bond. In this particular section of this chapter we are going to talk about this particular bond which we will call as a chemical bond between the or among the atoms, and how thus different compounds are formed, what is the different terms and the things related with this particular chemical bond, that all we are going to see in this particular video. So first of all we are going to talk about the chemical bond. When we talk about this chemical bond, we should recall first electronic configuration and valency of an atom, which already we have studied in the chapter inside the atom. So if you want, you can refer that particular video available on my channel, and you can go through there about the electronic configuration and the valencies. So after that, this particular part of the chapter will be much easier. When we talk about the bond formation or the electronic configuration, in that about noble gases, they have completed outermost shells or the orbit. In that they already have 2 or 8 electrons, means they have completed triplet or the octet, and hence they are not forming any kind of the chemical bonds. Otherwise, when we talk about the other atoms or the other types of the atoms or the different elements, they have their atoms and they have incomplete orbits or the incomplete outermost shell. Now this incomplete outermost shell keeps the atom unstable. So they want to complete their outermost shell. So in that, it is possible to complete it by different means or by different ways. In some cases, the outermost electrons or the electrons present in the outermost orbit can be released, can be donated, and some of the atoms, they accept these electrons and complete their outermost shell. In some cases, there is a possibility of a sharing between the atoms, that is also possible. So that we are going to see in this particular section. In the bond formations, the one what we have to study is the ionic bond. What is this ionic bond? For that, I just want to take an example of the sodium and chlorine, which they have considered in the chapter also. So I'll just zoom it so it will be easier to understand. See, when I am talking about the sodium, electronic configuration is 281, and for the chlorine, electronic configuration is 287. When we talk about the duplet or the octet, duplet is possible only for the first orbit, second, third, fourth, and hence whatever we will have after the first orbit, they require to complete the octet. So we will talk about the octet first. And octet means 8 electrons should be there in the outermost orbit to keep the atoms stable. Now, here when I am talking about the sodium, the outermost orbit contains 1 electron. Now, it requires a 7 electron to complete its octet. Another possibility is what? Instead of searching for the 7 electron, this 1 electron, if sodium is releasing, then the orbit will be completed. Outermost orbit will become second one, and it is already having 8 electrons, so octet will be completed only by releasing this 1 electron. So it's a common sense, instead of searching for the 7 different electrons, sodium will release that 1 electron. Correct? Another part is, on the other hand, when I am looking about this chlorine, in the chlorine can lose this 7 electron or gain 1 electron. So easier task will be what? To search 1 electron and accept it. So like here sodium, whatever the 1 electron it's releasing, 1 electron, that electron will be accepted by chlorine. And the octet will be completed. So new electronic configuration, what we are having, for the sodium it will become 2,8, and for the chlorine it will be 2,8,8. Okay. Now, another thing is what? Along with this, when I am talking about the sodium is releasing this 1 electron. Sodium is releasing this 1 electron and becoming what? 2,8. So in this particular case, sodium becomes plus. And that sodium atom, now it's converted to sodium ion. Why this one is happening? There are 11 positive proton, 11 negative electron. So total of this is 0. That is, this one is plus, this one is minus. So plus 11 minus 11, 0. But now in a new case, what happens? In a new case, what happens? The sodium is having 11 positive protons, but 10 electrons. So 11 is positive, 10 is negative. So balance is 1 plus 1 is left. No. So that's why sodium is written as now with plus sign at the top. That indicates this is a sodium ion. So sodium ion is a positive charge because it's losing one negative sign, that is electron. On the other hand, when I am talking about the chlorine is receiving 1 electron and becoming 2,8,8, and that's why chlorine is gaining negative charge. Sodium is positive, chlorine is negative. So sodium and chlorine, they are opposite charges, positive and negative. So they will attract each other. Opposite charges are attracting each other. So sodium and chlorine will attract each other. So the sodium and chlorine, which is Na plus and Cl minus, this both will attract each other. They will attract each other. And this particular attraction brings the concept of chemical bond, which we call as a ionic bond. Why ionic bond? Because these are ions, sodium ion and the chlorine ion, positive ions and negative ions. So this positive and negative ions they are attracting each other and forming a one strong chemical bond, which we call as a chemical bond, and the name for that bond is a ionic bond. So name of ionic bond is because of presence of positive and negative ions due to the losing of electron and gaining of electron. So this is about the ionic bond. And this kind of compounds are called as the ionic compound, ionic bond, or an electrovalent bond also. Another name for the ionic bond is a electrovalent bond. And these particular bonds are very strong because they are due to the positive and negative charges present on the atoms. So that was diagrams they have shown over here with the diagrams sodium and chlorine. You can see over here this one electron which is present in the outermost orbit is donated to the chlorine, and now sodium is having a new electronic configuration sodium ion, that is 2,8, and the chlorine is having 2,8,8 after gaining one electron from the sodium. So this part is clear about the formation of ionic bond in the NaCl. Same way they have given in the magnesium chloride also. Their 2 electrons are donated from the magnesium, and that goes to the 2 different chlorine atoms and forming the compound as a magnesium chloride, that is MgCl2. So one magnesium is connected with the 2 chlorines. So this is a formation of ionic bond in the MgCl2. Now the another type of a bond which we have to discuss is a covalent bond. Now in a certain cases where number of electrons are like 1 or 4, like in the hydrogen and the carbon, they have the number of electrons which is exactly a half of requirements. That is, half of 2 is 1 and the half of 8 is a 4. So in that particular case, losing 4 or gaining 4 or losing 1 and gaining 1 is a similar thing. They require equal amount of the equal sort of the energy. So in that particular case, atoms, what they do, instead of gaining or losing of electron, they are sharing an electron. The sharing between the atoms, sharing of electrons. So that also they have shown over here. You can see here 2 hydrogen atoms both require one electron to complete its duplet. So in that particular case, both are sharing one electron each. So duplet is complete for both the atoms. So this 2 electron will once revolve over here, and then it will revolve in the another atom also. So they are completing, or they are orbiting around both the nucleus, and the orbit for both the hydrogen atom is complete now. The first orbit contains 2 electrons, so that is duplet. Similarly, they have taken the another example over here, in which they have shown the water molecule. Here also what you can see, oxygen requires 2 electrons, so it can share a 2 electron with the hydrogen atoms, 2 different hydrogen atoms. So this will be shared and this will be shared. So you can see the further part of this diagram is this. Here you can see they are sharing a 1 electron each with the hydrogen and oxygen and forming the molecule named as the H2O molecule. So this is about the ionic and covalent bond, which brings the various compound in the field of chemistry. The chemical fields can be explained, the different compound, with the help of this particular bondings, that is ionic bond and covalent bond. Covalent name is given because of the covalent. Co means for the cooperations between these two, and valent means the valencies. So they are sharing electrons. So when we compare about this two, ionic compound and the covalent compounds, ionic bonds are much stronger as compared to the covalent bond. So this is all about the chemical bonds, and this finishes your chapter chemical reactions or the chemical equations. What we have studied in this chapter, the chemical change and chemical bond.